Thanks for tuning in to the World XP podcast. If you're enjoying the content, please drop us up, drop a like, and let us know your thoughts below in the comments. Also, please consider supporting our podcast via the link below. It really helps us out.
Welcome, HK, to the World XP podcast. Shout out to Manny. Sorry you lost your fight, bud. You're going to win the next one. I have confidence and faith in you. But Manny introduced HK to me via Instagram and found out some of her backstory, and she's very yoga instructor. And one of the things that I do for those listening is I'm trying to always a little bit injured, and so I'm always trying to figure out the best ways to improve performance and to not be sore and injured all the time. And I was like, oh, I got to talk to her because she seems like she knows what's up. So welcome.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you, Manny, as well. And hi, my name is HK. My actual name is Hyun, but I go by HK in 99% of the time, so feel free to call me that. And I'm a yoga instructor, teaching at a martial arts gym, Capital MMA, and also teach at a Refresh Yoga in Old Town Alexandria. I started yoga about 15 or 16 years ago as part of my recovery process from a car accident that happened even before that. So we'll tell you more as the conversation progresses.
Yeah, for sure. So you've already given me the backstory on the car accident, but for those listening, this is one of the reasons why Manny had suggested. I was talking to Manny over DMs before his fight, and he was saying like, oh yeah, like, how are you doing? How's podcast going? And I was like, dude, I really struggle for guests. And he was like, you gotta talk to HK because she had this crazy story of getting in a car accident, and then yoga basically saved. And I was like, okay, well, let me sort this out and see if I could talk to her. And you told me, I'll give a little bit of the backstory, but essentially at one point, a few months after, you couldn't walk or move at all, and yoga was the saving thing. And so, one, that's just crazy. But can you go through kind of where you were in terms of life stage in the accidents, not necessarily like the location, but like mentally where you were in life, and then kind of how you sorted through that recovery process? Because as you and I both know, being with athletes a lot who get injured and then they're like, oh, it's fine, nothing is actually wrong with me. And it's like, nope, incorrect. Something is very much wrong with you. So kind of walk through the accidents and then kind of how the next couple months after that, how that all happened and where you were mentally and stuff.
Yeah, sure. So when the accident happened, I was 20 years old. So I was walking at a very, very crowded cross, and this car was making a right turn and didn't see me, really tight right turn. And there were so many people, and she didn't see me. She just basically just very, very slowly, because like the cars can't go very fast, like some places like Georgetown and DuPont Circle and places like that. So it just notched me very slowly. But I fell. It was, 3-pound car versus a small girl. So I fell, and I felt pain in the back of my side. How can I say it? Like lower back on my left side. And we together went to the hospital, and then took an x-ray and did some basic checkups. And then turned out I didn't have like anything broken or anything really serious. And also when I was 20, I mean, most of people in their 20s, when you get injured, you don't do proper recovery. And when you feel kind of fine, you just don't go to treatment and do your own thing. So I did the same thing. And I closed the case really prematurely. Like 2 months after the accident, I stopped going to physical therapy, and I just closed the case. And I had a little bit of money, and I thought that was all fine. And then the accident happened in May, and I closed the case like sometime around like late July or early August. And then the summer passed by, and then the winter came. Then one day after, not long after Christmas, somewhere around the New Year's, and my legs were feeling a little bit numb, my toes were feeling a little bit numb, and I thought because of the cold weather or whatnot. And one day morning I woke up and my legs were not moving. I couldn't get out of the bed. It was the most surreal feeling I have ever had. So long story short, I went to the ER and they did MRI at the time. And then they told me I had a bunch of nerves came out from my lower lumbar spine, and my muscles were pinching it. So I lost my senses in my legs, and it was quite bad at the time. I had to be on a wheelchair for close to 2 weeks, and did a very, very long rehab after that, and out of my own pocket because I closed the case. And then I was able to walk and do my regular things, and I was always active, try to be active, but always lived with the pain for about 10 years. And if I go to like shopping mall with my friends, I had to let them go shop, and I had to sit because I couldn't like walk around like my other friends would. And then one day, back in 2008, I believe, I started to go to this Gold Gym in Patagon City Mall. I don't know if the gym is still there or not. And there was this free yoga class. Then I got really into yoga, not because like I really liked it at the beginning. I wasn't a big fan of it, but that was like the only class that worked with my schedule. But I just kept doing it, and then I began to like it at one point. So I was going there more than year and a half, without really thinking about any changes in my body. And one day I just noticed I've been walking around in the shopping mall, the same shopping mall where I was going to the gym, and I didn't have any pain anymore. So I just noticed change after a year and a half of doing yoga every week. And then I started to do yoga like religiously because I wasn't doing any other workouts because of the pain. Yeah. Yep, that's how I started. Kind of, I mean, it's a long time span between the accident and the starting yoga. But before that, I tried to do workouts, but I couldn't do any of those more than 2 or 3 months because always lower back pain would bother me so much to the extent I had to quit.
Yeah, for sure. So what's crazy to me is the amount of time, well, I guess just the luck involved in finding yoga. Like this happens with a lot of people I talk to who have started to pursue something that they're like, oh yeah, I just found this thing because some guy introduced it to me somewhere, or it fit with my schedule like yours. And then all of a sudden it becomes such a huge part of their life to the point where they're
Yeah.
now making maybe a living or some side money on it because they've become so proficient or so invested in that thing. For me, listening to it, so a lot of the injuries that I see or deal with, I guess, are very sports injuries, and so it's a lot of like similar concepts, but strengthening the muscles around the. So if you've got a knee injury, maybe your hip flexor is too tight, and so this other muscle is overcompensating, and then it puts pressure on the joint, etc. And so I'm familiar with that sort of concept. So I'm curious what in the yoga helped with the lumbar area, like what actually healed your injury? What was it? What needed strengthening, or was it, how did you figure that out? Or was it just a natural progression of just everything becoming more flexible and looser and stronger, and overall it just eventually healed? Or was it one specific, like, oh, I needed to strengthen my medial glute and that helped?
Yeah, not really. I had a goal, but what happened eventually is doing yoga makes you use a lot of core muscles, and the core muscle it's not, people get confused between core and the ab, but the ab is only the ones in the front. The core muscle is actually, there are 4 groups of abdominal muscles that makes core. And then what becomes the core of core is your spine, and then all the small muscles around the spine. When you do yoga, yoga makes you use all of these muscles. So it helps your vertebrae create room in between them. So that's what really helped me relieve the pressure against my nerves. so these days, the last year I had more back pain for different reasons. Jiu-jitsu and all this stuff, like, yeah, I break myself and fix myself. That's my joke these days. I break myself doing jiu-jitsu and like boxing and other things, and then I do yoga on my own and fix myself, and I go back to jiu-jitsu and break again. But but these days I take an X-ray. My spine alignment is so ideal. The doctors cannot tell I have any problem, and when they take an MRI, they're like, "Holy cow! What is going on with your spine? Here is a tear. Here is a herniated disc." So I have only one lumbar spine disc left. 3 of them are popped, and they all leaked out. Yeah, but because I keep doing a lot of work that can strengthen my muscles that's surrounding the vertebrae, so they are still keeping the space between the vertebrae. So that's the art of having develop the small muscles. It's not your big biceps that helps my spine. It's the tiny muscles that you can't even see.
Yeah. Do you worry about that when maybe you get older and you're not able to do yoga as much anymore, that the stuff in your spine you're gonna need to like
It can collapse.
do something about it? Yeah. Does that worry you, or have you done things to maybe preemptively mitigate or anything like that?
There's not much they can do. The doctors oftentimes do treatment that can just numb my nerves if that cannot be really fixed. But I haven't done anything, or do I plan to do that? And not just from car accident or jiu-jitsu or anything. As you age, your spine and all your muscles become weak, if you don't like invest a lot. Like, so I'm already 44, becoming 45. So hopefully next to 20 years, I can stay super active like nowadays, and I can sustain my spine health without any surgery or anything. Hopefully, fingers crossed.
Yeah,
And
fingers crossed for sure.
and both fingers, both both sides. So I mean, I can do all I can do, and I don't want to do anything prematurely because this like medical technology evolves so fast. If I wait 10 years to 20 years, there will be definitely much less invasive solutions for the same treatment. So I want to sustain my spine health as much as I can naturally in my power until I don't have other choices.
Yeah, 100%. That's one of the things so I train a lot of younger soccer players, like do some one-on-one stuff or small group things on the side. And some strength and conditioning is one of the things that I think, not to like toot my own horn or anything, but one of the things that I add that's different than some of the other people that just do footwork and some of these other things. And one of the things I always tell the kids and the parents is like, this is not just so they can play better on the weekend. It's so they can learn how to take care of themselves later. And I just was actually training 2 people this weekend. I was like, all right, how do you guys warm up? It's like my first session with them. It's like, how do you guys warm up? And they like went through all the stretches and different things. And I said, do you know what muscles that is stretching? Like, no. It's like, well, so why do you do it then? It's like, oh, because coach told me on the weekend. Yeah. Of course, they're 12, so they don't know, right? And I knew that they didn't know. It's part of the assessment process, so I can see what they know and don't know, and that sort of thing. And I said, so one of the things that training is going to help with you guys is learn when you do an activity where you should feel it and what muscle is firing, and so if you do a squat, like this is a super easy dumb example, but if you do a squat and you feel it all in your knee, then that's probably not good. And you should feel it in your quad and your glutes and all the other things. And like, oh, I didn't, like, which one's the quad again? It's like, okay, we got a long ways to go. But yeah, it's, I think, and at least for me, when I was little, nobody taught me how to run. I learned all of this stuff in the last probably 3-4 years, and I'm 27 now. So, but it would have been nice to know in high school. And so when I was
Yeah.
24, 25, because I had patellar tendonitis, my patellar tendons are screwed up. I didn't figure out how to manage it until I was 23, 24. And if I'd figured that out in college, then I could have stopped it by doing these exercises earlier. So I think one of the things that you've learned as you've been doing yoga and all this stuff is like, this knowledge is becoming more readily available. I feel like. So I guess there's not really a question within that, but let me see if I can figure one out. I guess, have you found that? Was this new, like when you started doing yoga, I don't know, whenever in 2008, I think you said, was it kind of, where in the knowledge space, like were you kind of, were people looking at you when you started to be like, oh, this is helping me with my back? Were people like, nah, or like, did you have to go through that? Because now I feel like it's very readily accepted that yoga is very helpful. Did you have to deal with that when you were first? Because I remember when we first talked, you were saying that the guys at the MMA studio were like, hey, can you help us with stretches and different things? Was there any resistance, or maybe resistance is not, do you know what I'm trying to say?
Like if it's socially accepted, like the concept of yoga is healing.
Did people think you were weird, like yoga's gonna fix you, and you're like, people are like, nah?
I know. So I never really talked to anyone when I started to do yoga for first few years, and I just kept doing it, and then I made friends in the circle of yoga practice. So people whom that I was talking about yoga, they already knew about yoga, and I wouldn't talk about it at work or, outside the community. And first time I began to talk about my yoga with non-yoga practicing people is probably when I started to train jiu-jitsu. That was 2015. And like, because you train a lot, so you probably know, like, when you train certain martial arts or certain sports, you use certain muscles way more than other muscles, right? And then it becomes super tight. Like if you are training soccer, probably your legs and your hips and your lower body is way tighter than your arms or upper back, right? So in jiu-jitsu, people use a lot of upper body, especially the frontal muscles, by like pulling a lot of things and then like choking and doing all these things. So they always have like really tight chest and back, and it transitions into other pain and also hips because you use a lot of guard. And so I was like, well, actually some stuff like that, if you do move like this, you might feel better. And then like they were like, oh yeah, it's working. And then everybody was like, how do you know these things? Oh,
Magic.
because I've been doing yoga for a while, and then this is the kind of stuff like you end up doing if you practice yoga, right? And a lot of people still don't know about what yoga really is. Some people think it's just flopping on the floor. Some people think it's literally somewhere between workout and dancing. I kid you not. Some people think it's dancing. Like
what's the craziest thing you've heard?
Like Tai Chi, some people think yoga is like Tai Chi in a more feminine version. And wow, like it's very interesting to hear that. And many people actually there was this football player long time ago came to a yoga class. And he's like, well, I've been a professional football player for 15 years. And well, yoga seems to be it's a very light workout for me, but I just came here to support my wife. But, it's your body weight. If you weigh 300 pounds, you need to work with 300 pounds. So his wife is as small as me, so she's probably working with 120 pounds, and then he's working with 300 pounds. He literally like fell asleep during Shavasana, and he was just snoring. Everyone was trying not to laugh. But like I think it's much better these days compared to like 10 years ago. I think people understand yoga more than what they did 10 years ago, but at the time it was not very known and or used as a part of workout. But it's to me, it's active recovery. The most ridiculous thing, I forgot to answer you. Someone was thinking it's meditation for 1 hour, just sitting and breathing and meditating. Like, I'm a very active person. I would have not not done even one class if there was yoga. Yeah,
No shot. Oh,
yeah,
that's crazy.
and
Yeah, active recovery is a really good
sorry,
way
yeah,
to put at it or to put it.
yeah.
I've been in several soccer teams where we've brought in yoga instructors like during preseason where we're doing 2 practices a day and lifting, and it's very
Mhm,
like we're super like the soreness is crazy, and
mhm,
they'd say, okay, no practice tomorrow, but you have to be at yoga,
mhm.
things like
Yeah.
that. So, and that was not too long ago. So,
Mhm. Yeah, it's a
um,
very good active recovery. And sometimes this happened a couple of times. Um, I was teaching at Capital MMA. These guys training MMA, training like Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu for 10 plus years, and they still think yoga is flopping on the floor. So one person came to my class. He's got his ankle broken, so he wanted to do yoga. And I was like, okay, do what you can do. You don't have to do everything that everyone is doing. And there's a lot of one leg poses in yoga, a lot of
yeah,
balancing poses. Yeah. He stayed to the end, but gave up and left the second class. And um and then there was another guy. I mean, that guy stayed at the end, but in the middle he kind of gave up doing it and then left shortly after the class. And there was one guy who also came because he just did the shoulder surgery like 3 days ago, and he's like, I can train jiu-jitsu, I can train jiu-jitsu, I can do Muay Thai. So I thought I can do yoga because it's easy. But you just got, yeah, your rotator cuff torn. There's a lot of moves you need to use your rotator cuffs, right? So, I mean, I still see this once in a while because they simply just don't know. It's not like
yeah,
they are like trying to say something that's ridiculous, but they just simply don't understand the practice. So, yeah, it still happens from time to
yeah,
time.
for sure. No, this is quite funny because have you ever had somebody where you've been maybe in not the best mood, let's say, and they're like, "Oh, I bet yoga is easy," and you're like, "I'm gonna make this class really hard to show you."
And not really. It's not necessary. It's hard enough.
That's that's true. That's true for sure. I don't. It is hard. I guess there was one. I saw that happen one time with. Um, I was doing yoga with my wife, and I wasn't telling her that it was easy or anything, but
Mhm,
I was kind of like, oh, okay, I need some active recovery or whatever.
mhm,
And she was like, no, it's still a workout. And I was like, I know. It's like not, because
mhm,
in my head, I was thinking not workout in terms of strength, but
mhm,
cardio wise. So like interval
mhm.
training on a track, and like it's not the same. She's like, no, watch
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
And she goes and she pulls up a thing on YouTube, and she's like, all right, this will be really hard. And by the end I was like,
Mhm.
oh my God. It's like, and I didn't even go into it expecting it to be easy. I was like, this is gonna be hard, but it was still
Yeah,
so much harder than I thought it was going to be. And she's like flying through the poses, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna shoot myself. It's like
I
it's not
know, I know. There are some yoga can be literally between range 0 to 10. And I try to keep my class somewhere around 7, 6, 7. I don't want to go too crazy because the people that I teach, especially at the Capital MMA, they do a lot of classes that really beats them up. So they get completely exhausted. So they don't need more of that. They need some recovery. But if it's not too challenging, people kind of lose interest because there has to be certain challenge and there has to be a certain level of effort that you put in. So at the end of the practice, you kind of feel, oh, I did this, right? Instead of, oh yeah, this was a good stretch class instead of that, you know?
Yeah. So let me ask you this then, because you only started, you started in like informally instructing at the MMA studio before you started instructing other places. So did you have kind of like if somebody signs up for your class at the other place that you teach at, are they getting the same? Well, okay, so there's two questions in this. One, when you started to teach with the MMA guys, you had that in mind where you're like, okay, they've already been training enough strength stuff. They need more active recovery, but still challenge, so they don't think it's boring, etc. But then, so you started modeling your classes in that way. Was it tough for you to switch when you went to the other place, or you kind of teach the same way at both places, or like
teach the same way.
So like when somebody signs up for your class, they know that they're getting that style of yoga.
So that's my style. And I myself went through so many injuries. Like I broke my ankle in jiu-jitsu and I broke my toe. So broken toe is another story. You have only one toe broken, you can't do anything. And then the recovery is also very frustrating. And because I don't know if you have ever broken toe or not, like when you please don't. When you break your toe, it's so frustrating. It's only one toe, but you still need to wear the boot. It's the same process as a broken ankle. But when you try to recover, the way you walk, right side and left side, is different now. So you need to fix that. It took about 3 years for me to fix that. I bought a treadmill at home and I was tracking how my shoes were, getting worn, because as I'm walking right side and left side differently, my hips were getting twisted. Because my hips were getting twisted, I was having more lower back pain. Because I was having more lower back pain, my shoulders were also not feeling good because it's all connected. So it's like toe injury is the root cause of all kinds of pain. Anyway, so through these injuries and recoveries, I have about 7 anatomy books at home, and I ended up studying so much with, okay, I broke this bone and these muscles are connected to this bone, and then these are connected to this joint, and this can go this way, this way, this way. So, and then I take it to yoga anatomy books, and then I find the poses that can help. So I have been doing all this study to recover myself from all these injuries. And I had knee injury, and this wrist got dislocated one time. And
gross.
And then I know, this literally touched here, like it went all the way to here.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So a lot of injuries, and I had a motorcycle accident and I landed on this shoulder. So like my rotator cuff is a little bit torn. And so with all these injuries, I still managed to do most of the yoga poses, and I teach. So in doing that, not to get myself more injured doing yoga, because you can get injured doing yoga too. A lot of people, when they try to do inversions, they get their neck injured because they put too much weight on their head. Like all these things, how to do these challenging poses safely without injuring the body more, because my goal is to have active recovery through yoga, not to break myself more, right? So a lot of people coming to my class, not just at Capital MMA, but now also at my other studio, they are all very active athletes or runners or people who does hiking, but they do want to find out ways of still doing workouts and recover at the same time. So I think that's kind of becoming my niche. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think one of the other things that athletes maybe struggle with the first time is like they feel like they should be able to do all the poses because they're athletic.
Yeah.
And it doesn't always work that way. For sure,
Right.
because the balancing on different poses is difficult, and then you kind of stumble around and you fall over, and all the if you're not as flexible as you want
You
to be,
thought you
then
were, yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I think that's a big road. That was one of the for me the first couple of times I tried it. I was like, why can't I do this? Like it's so it like it. I know I have to be flexible, but like my body's not doing it. I was like angry at
Yeah.
myself for not being able to do it. How do you how do you deal with that when people come in and you say like no, it takes time, and then how do people come in through word of mouth, or how do you kind of advertise for that?
I don't really advertise actively. I just tell people like I teach at Capital MMA mostly to help my friends, like
Hmm.
because we train together, right? So they do come because I tell them to come, and they have seen me getting injured and then recover myself by doing yoga. So if they come once or twice and they begin to feel the benefits of the practice, and then they come back. And at the other place, at the beginning, I really didn't have like many students because my yoga studio is in Old Town, and the demographic of Old Town, that very studio is for a little bit more older generation, not like people between 20s and like early 40s. Um, so I really didn't have many people coming regularly, but now after more than a year and a half, I do have many people coming to my class for just specifically for these things. So without like specific advertisements, just people get to know it just by participating in it. Yeah, first person
Yeah,
interaction is most important. Yeah.
yeah, for sure. One of the other things I wanted to ask you about is after we followed each other on Instagram, I noticed in your
Mhm.
stories you're always posting about food and the
Yeah.
different like macro levels and different
Yeah.
things. When did you start doing, or what made you start doing that?
So that started during pandemic. I was cooking a lot, and what happened to many people is that people began to lose their like becoming getting out of shape, and they begin to order food from outside and eat a lot of Uber Eats, and then gain more weight. And usually, food that you buy from restaurants, they only care about the taste. They don't care about the nutrition that much, right?
Hmm.
So um, so that's why I began to share things, because if you are active athlete, you do a lot of workouts. Working out is not a problem because it's fun for you. But
Yeah.
what becomes a problem is the food, especially right after you work out, you're hungry, you eat whatever that's in the fridge, and you will end up making yourself gain more like fat, not just the muscle weight, than eating things at home, like cooking things at home. So I began to share how to cook simple meals. Like everything that I post is super simple. How you can cook super simple meals without spending a lot of time and stay in shape, because they say six packs are made in the kitchen, not at the gym, because what you eat is way more important than what you work out, like how much you work out. So I sometimes post, I do experiment with my own body. Like I will do like right now I'm on 8 weeks macro watch eating program. So this is week 2. I recently posted my difference between day 1 and then actually week 3 just started after 2 weeks, and I posted my first photo. And I just want to show people like yes, I do a lot of workout, but even if I do the same workout, if I don't watch what I'm eating, I can gain weight like day 1. But as I watch what I'm eating, it's also not like I'm eating 1,000 calories a day and starving myself. I'm eating a lot. I'm on 16 to 1,700 calorie a day, but eating 16 to 1,700 calorie of healthy food is so much of food. So you need to
Yeah.
eat, yeah, you need to eat like a lot of food at like at the right timing, not like eat one meal really heavy and then starve for the rest of the day. Like, so it's really surprising. A lot of people don't have the idea what they need to do. So what's really fulfilling to me is people who come to my yoga class, and then some of my friends, some of my colleagues, they see the things that I post and they begin to make the food, and they send me like pictures. Hey, HK, I saw your recipe. It seemed so easy. So I made my lunches following your recipe and it tastes good too. Thank you. Yeah. Those things make me really, smile and happy.
Yeah, you should. It's good because that's what I think a lot of people struggle with eating healthy because it tastes horrible. Like you see people be like, "Oh, just eat piece of chicken and broccoli," and you're like, "Yeah, I'd rather not." It's like
I know you can do chicken and broccoli only maybe like 3 days, and then
it's
you
so
can't
boring.
do it anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, like my cheat thing for a lot of my meals is like I won't cut out cheese. Like so if I make breakfast like
I love
eggs,
cheese too. Yeah.
cheese is so good. That's my one thing. I'm like, all right, I'll keep cheese.
Yeah.
Everything else I'll get rid of. But the point you made about like that amount of calories in healthy food is actually so much food. It's so true because
Mhm.
like one donut is like 500 calories and that's like boom gone. But if
Mhm.
you can eat like 4 eggs and 2 bananas and it's the same amount of like or less
Yeah.
calories. It's like
One donut.
400 is
Yeah.
I think what 4 eggs and two bananas would be
That's about
what
500.
like
Yeah.
high 400s 500 yeah exactly
About 500.
and it's so much more food than
Mhm.
one donut and is so much more filling and the
Yep.
composition of what's in the food is obviously much better but one of the things that when you start paying attention you don't have to count because you can ballpark like right now you and I
Yeah.
just ballparked that meal as it's about 500 calories and you can start
Mhm.
knowing kind of where you're at
Yeah.
throughout the day and I think that for me was the biggest thing to start paying attention is I could just estimate and
Mhm.
without being because I'm sure people that are super crazy about
Yeah.
there was
I'm
one extra
I'm
piece of shredded
only
cheese so there's one extra calorie. It's like that's too much. It's too much to do that. It's too
yeah.
stressful like to have the mental bandwidth to do that. But the ability to just estimate and ballpark where you're at is huge. I don't know. Have you noticed that as well?
Yeah, so I'm only super anal when I'm posting on Instagram so that other people can see my diary of food. When I'm like the days I'm so busy, I don't have time to post on Instagram. I would just ballpark, like I know this much of like chicken breast will be somewhere around 120 calories. I don't have to like use the scale to
Yeah.
weigh everything. Yeah. And I don't know if you noticed or not, but I'm not eating so much of salad. Probably I will have like one salad a week. Everybody thinks like if I want to be on a diet, I need to have salad 3 meals a day. Please don't. It's you get bloated.
Yeah.
There are so many other things you can eat rather than salad. And then the other problem is you eat salad and you use this dressing that
Yeah.
has 5 times more calories than like some
And
other
the
food.
salad itself. You get a salad and the salad without the dressing is 500 calories and with the
I
dressing it's a
know. Then
thousand.
what's the point? Just eat, Big Mac.
I love a good Cobb salad though. I can't lie. I can't lie. A good Cobb salad, but I try and get like oil-based dressing instead of
Mhm.
ranch, even though ranch is so good.
I
It's
know
so
it's
good.
good. It's good. But when I have time, I actually make my own salad dressing too. Like not that I like salad, but I use that to use like I use it like a dip for I like baby carrots and like
Mm,
celery sticks and some of these crunchy things. So when I have cravings for something crunch, instead of having like chips and hummus, which can be like really disastrous when you look at the macro, it's all carbs and you can easily, go through like whole bag of chips and like the entire container of hummus at one sitting, like so easy. And then it's like 1,500 calories, like God knows how many carbs. So not to do that, I make my own dip. I mix Greek yogurt and a few spoons of tzatziki sauce and put some lemon in it And sometimes I grind apple and I put in there. It's so good. Then I use it as my dip for my carrots and celery sticks. Yeah. And it's
Sounds
so
good.
regular. Yeah, you should try one day.
Yeah, I will. Text it to me afterwards because I'll forget.
Okay.
And I think my that sounds like something that my wife would do because she makes sauces for herself too. Generally, I'm one of those psychos that I'm like, yeah, food is fuel, and so
Mhm,
I can get away with the chicken and broccoli for a
mhm,
lot of days for the most part, um and she doesn't, which is
mhm.
helpful for us to I think be balanced against each other a little bit. It's like the to balance each other out, but like to your point about the chips and the hummus, so
Mhm.
I just don't buy them because
I know.
I
I need
bought
to.
one bag of chips and then I was just like snacking on them and I was like, oh god damn it, I ate half the bag. It's like no,
Yeah,
not
yeah, I
good.
know. It happens to me all the time. So I don't buy hummus. I just go through the whole container at one sitting. Like, no, I mean, I can do that like maybe once a month, but if I
Yeah,
keep doing it like regularly, I'm gonna be in trouble.
yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like one bad day. I'm also the person that's like, oh, I had one bad day. I'm gonna ruin the last 10 years of work. It's like no, it's like one day is okay. It's like it'll be fine. Um, oh, that's crazy. So so during so actually you mentioned during the pandemic, that's an interesting thing. So when you had your were you teaching so you were teaching before and then during the pandemic, did you have to go to Zoom yoga or
Um,
how did
I
you sort
didn't,
through that?
so I didn't teach for about 8 months.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, not 8 months. Starting March until August. So I started teaching again in September. So like 6, 7 months, I didn't teach at all, and then I began to teach at the MMA gym starting like September in person, but with the limited capacity. And the yoga studio, I taught only 5 people in person and then online together. Yeah, because the studio was a little bit smaller and
Yeah.
like one person at each corner. And then in the middle, one more person, and I'm like all the way in the front. And
Oh
yeah,
my
so
God.
it was like that. And then it was very challenging because I had a video on, and then there are people on the like video on the what is it? I think we use the Zoom, people on Zoom call, and then there are like 4 to 5 people in the room, and I need to look at the people in the screen, and I need to look at the people in the room. It was very challenging at the beginning. Later, I just didn't look
Yeah.
altogether.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense because like when you teach, do you help people adjust their or not
Yeah,
really?
I mean, so my teaching style completely changed. Before pandemic, I will walk around and correct the people more. But these days, I change. I after pandemic, I demo most of it instead. Some people still freak out when I come, like try to touch them and try to correct their poses. I mean, not everybody's comfortable with the
Yeah.
touching. I mean, at the MMA gym, we're comfortable with
I mean,
yeah,
you guys are
sports.
killing each other anyway, so
Yeah, we're choking each other on a daily basis. I mean, people are okay with that, but in the at the yoga studio, it's a little bit different. Some people were not comfortable at all. Like even I was instructed not to move from my teaching spot.
that's so I guess it
I
gotta be
know,
so just not like so unnatural because you want to go interact with people.
I know.
Not you or
So
people want to interact with people and you're like, no, everyone is in their corner. It's like you're on timeout.
it's not like even they are close to me, right? They're like so far away from me. It's a different story if you can be in a more like closer space and you can really see me closely, and then I can like it's easier for me to see them too. And then I can give barbecue like, hey, so and so, like, can you move your right hand a little bit to this side, things like that. But when they are so far in different corners, I honestly didn't know where to look. Like, I'm looking at this person and this person doing something wrong. And yeah, it was very challenging.
Yeah. I want to shift gears just a little bit and talk about the MMA and how you got into that. Because as someone who had a bunch of injuries,
Yeah.
and then you were like, this might be a good way to get more injured. It's like it's like it feels like that
Right.
would not be the logic that would make sense there. But what made you start doing, or like what would pique the interest? You're like, yeah, I want to try this.
It's a really interesting story. So since I was a kid, I wanted to train Taekwondo. I'm originally from Korea, and my brother went to Taekwondo class, and my parents never wanted me to go because I was already in like more trouble than my brother was at school. Like, so they didn't want me to like learn any martial arts. So it was always in the back of my head. And I couldn't do any of these sports because of the injury for the longest time. And then when I recovered myself doing yoga and I began to do different things, like I began to do strength training a little bit, and then I also began to do Pilates, and then like I got bored of all these workouts. So I was looking for something new. And one day, like really randomly, on my Groupon advertisement email had self-defense classes. Oh, this is really close to my place. I'm gonna go check out. Like, it's self-defense, right? It sounded so innocent. And I went there. It was like full-on jiu-jitsu studio.
That's how they get you in. Well, self-defense.
Yeah. Well, sounds interesting, right? Like, it sounds safe. And then I went to one class and I kind of liked it. And then after second class, I signed up for 1 year. Yeah. And that's how I got into it. And then it didn't take long for me to realize self-defense starts with self-destruction. Yeah.
That's a good way to put it.
Got lots of injuries, but it's still fun. I mean, I don't train as active as I did before due to like injuries plus also aging. After a certain age, your recovery takes a really long time. That's, you will notice later, but like after a certain time, if you're active, you still have the cardio, you still have the strength, you still have the flexibility and all that, but your recovery takes much longer. So now I only train like once or twice a week. Like before, I was training much more often. But I mean, at the end of the day, I'm not doing this to get a gold medal at Olympics. I'm doing this for fun. So as long as it's fun for me and, you know, keep myself active and like psychologically engage it, yeah, that's all I want.
Yeah, for sure. That's one of the things I've heard. So actually, funny story. I signed up for a jiu-jitsu class at the gym that I was at the time in February of 2020. And then and then COVID happened, so I never went to one class, but I did sign up. So I guess I'm
It
doing
still
something.
counts.
Yeah, it still counts, right? But one of the things I hear from talking to Manny and other people is the mental side of jiu-jitsu is like keeps people engaged rather because there's only so many variations you can do on a squat, for example, before you're like, all right, it's still a squat. But with jiu-jitsu is when you are rolling with different people and each move had like you pass this guard and then you got to set up this move and the mental side is so much more kind of engaging. Can you talk to that a little bit from because you were like, oh, I got bored of Pilates and the other stuff.
Yeah.
So is that one of the things that kept you engaged?
Yeah, absolutely. And also there's a growth in it. You know what I mean? Like now I'm not talking about just the belt color. I'm talking about like in yoga, yes, you can progress, you can do more and more difficult poses. But in jiu-jitsu, you learn how to react, how to respond. And then at one point, you learn how to like make certain people respond in a certain way. It kind of becomes like playing chess with your body. like when you are in someone's guard and when you move right hand this way, there are only so many things you can do. And then you can predict it and then be ready for it. And when what you are fishing for becomes the reality, it's so much of excitement. It's brain game. It's a lot of brain game that requires a physical training and strength.
Fair enough. If
Yeah.
you had to summarize yoga in, I don't know, very brief terms that isn't flopping around on the floor or meditating, how would you best describe it?
Yoga is active recovery and then making the connection with your own self, because you don't check your body on a daily basis. Oh, my arms are hurting. Okay, but I'll just get through today. That's how I used to be, and that's how a lot of people are, right? But by doing yoga now, even like very brief moment, I have mental like capacity thinking, my right hips are hurting. How's my left hip? Oh, maybe, I'm doing these things too much. Maybe I should not do this so much for the next few days. Like I do my body scan and then make conscious decision that can protect my body from myself. Does that make does it make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, I do it for soccer also.
Yeah.
It's like I feel this I know I've had this problem with this ankle before, and this knee feels a little off, so maybe I won't do so many
Yeah,
long balls today.
exactly.
Yeah.
And
100%.
then, and even doing the yoga itself, if something hurts, you learn how to not to do it, because a lot of times your ego will tell you to do it, right? Especially if there's like a lot of other yogis in the room and they can all do like these things, and oh, I know how to do that, I want to do that too, right? But that's how you get injured, right?
Yeah.
So eventually you learn how to make your ego and your body negotiate, find the ground where you make things work for you. So I didn't have that before I did yoga, but now I know it's okay. I don't have to do this every day, even though, I can do certain balance, I can do certain inversions, but that doesn't mean I have to go full on 100% every time I'm doing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Fair enough.
talking to myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, not in a crazy way.
No, not in the crazy way. Of course not. Just the body scan that is normal. That no.
Internally.
Yeah, 100%. I
Yeah.
think this has been a good hour, and I know you've got stuff going on. Do you have any last nickels before we wrap up?
So I would recommend anybody to try yoga if they have not tried before. Not because I'm doing it, but because it can benefit people in many different ways. There's a there is a small component that's close to meditation, like you are centering, try to really focus on the moment that you're doing stuff, like that's very valuable too. And it's a very long process of learning things about the poses and also about yourself. So for the internal and also physical benefits, I want everybody to try at least once, because if you want to, say something is not good, you need to at least try one time to tell it's not good, right?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Where can the people find your social media, your Instagram, and where are you? Just if anyone wants to find you or take your class, where should they go?
They can go to either Capital MMA, Alexandria. You can Google and find it, or Refresh Yoga, Refresh hang on, the name has changed recently. Refresh Collective Yoga. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So
And then
both are in
for your meal stuff, your Instagram is
yeah, that's on my Instagram. It's Hyun Kwak DC. It's not easy. It's HYUN. You maybe you can type in somewhere.
yeah. I'll put the link in the description for sure.
So yeah, on my Instagram you can find information about food. And if you message me, a few people messaged me and I help them calculate what's the right amount of calories and protein and stuff like that that they need per day to get to certain to meet certain goal. If you want to lose weight, if you want to gain muscle, like I cannot work out with you or for you, but I can tell you the macro, how to calculate it. It's super easy. It's really difficult to do it, but calculating is not that difficult. So I can share some information depending on what you're trying to do. Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. Thank you. I really appreciate your time. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah, thank you too. And come join my class one day.
I will. I was thinking about that halfway through. I was
Yeah.
like, I need to make my way over there at some point. And then you can torture me with really hard yoga poses. So
No, I know.
Sounds good. All right, guys. We'll see you guys next time. Peace.
Right. Thank you. Bye.